Okay, welcome to tonight's Team Vitality Zoom, where I'm going to cover just the first two sections of stories that stick, because I found when I was making the slides that they were so rich that when I had so many things highlighted, even though much of it has to do with stories and I'm not including those, it was very interesting to go, oh, okay, no, actually all of this is needed. So I will do another one next week, and hopefully that will be the last time you'll see me for a little while. But we'll get going. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I did change my settings, so we should not get bombed on this. So thank you very much, Vandy, for sharing that. So we know. Okay, wait, where to go? There we go. They're over here. That needs to go away. It's in the way of my menu bar. Okay, here we go. So one of the reasons that I really enjoy doing these is because I I read it and I highlight it, and then I have to go back, and then I'm communicating with you, so I actually get to go back and do it. And like I said last week, this is really, really key for me right now, because I'm currently building a blog, and blogs are all about telling stories. So yeah, very, very cool. Okay, so the first story that's important is called the value story, and we're going to spend most of our time tonight on this. So marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but about the stories that you tell. There are so many competing products, and a few of our products are not, there's no competition for them at all, but that doesn't mean that they don't need stories. And when we take a look in Activating You and whatnot, like, and even what Eric Worre says is always tell stories. Well, what we're going to learn tonight is how to tell stories better, especially for business. So we talked last week a lot about gaps and bridging the gaps. So the first gap in business in terms of stories is the value gap, right? That's the gap between the solution and the problem. It's the gap between the product and the value to the customer. And this one is king, or queen, if you want to put it that way, right? Now, one of the reasons I love this book is that she does reference a lot of psychology, and I'm a psychologist, so I definitely think it's important to understand why. It's important to understand why. Just like your why is so important to your business, it is important to know why that this is effective. Okay, and it spans the full spectrum as to why we say yes. So again, when we think about those testimonials, right, they're so important. I'm going to stop tagging the facts, and you'll see why when we get to the next section. Like, they're too hard for people to do, even though you're like, I must prove my point. I want to get all the evidence, because we've been shown that evidence, if you have a point, you support it with evidence, and then you get a certain result. Well, that's not necessarily working anymore, and I'll explain why later. So our testimonials are so important. So my challenge to you is that if you do not have a testimonial, or several in there, I think I have like 6 in there: skincare, hair care, Protandim, Facebook Live, Vitality Stack, Ben's testimonial, dog, horse. I have more than 6 in there. So my challenge to you is, if you do not have a testimonial in Activating You yet, that to have it there by this time next week. Okay, and use the guidelines. The value story is perfect for Activating You. The next one we're going to do is not perfect. The founder story is next, but this one is perfect for Activating You. So please keep this in mind and put one together for next week. That is your homework. Oh yeah, right. Wait, how did this? I thought there was a. There we go. I'm like, which button do I press? Okay. Giving loads of facts to prove the value of our products is actually hurting us, right? There is a space for it, but you should no longer be tagging people in those posts, because people will go find that on their own, right? Like, when I first started out, I made a huge list of all the diseases and disorders and whatever things that were caused by oxidative stress. And I thought, oh, this is going to nail it. This is going to be the greatest thing. And I used to tag people in that going, ooh, look what it can do, but it's actually not really working. So I'm going to not do that anymore. I'm going to leave it in there because it's valuable for sure, but it's only going to appeal to a certain very small logical part of us, right? And that customer. Okay, so here's why. More information in the form of facts makes our brains work harder than they need to. Now, I know all about this. She calls them the two systems, but they're actually what's called the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And I'm not going to get into it because that's not important. But what we need to know is that there's two systems in the brain. System one is our automatic one. Okay, this is the stuff that keeps everything going. We're breathing, we're our heartbeat, all that kind of stuff, right? With little or no effort and sense of voluntary control. So this is something that we don't really control and we don't have to put effort into. So the fact that you know you can automatically recall 2 plus 2 because you learned that when you were in grade 1 or whatever, that is part of this system. Things that we know automatically, like when we hear thunder or something happens, and or you hear like a loud noise and you kind of shudder and jerk back, right? These are all automatic responses, and that's what we want because these are really easy to tap into, right? Now, system 2 is where we need to do more effortful mental activities like doing like complex math, but also it's that active present thinking, and you have to work for it, right? So you have to, when you're figuring something out, or you've got a problem and you're just trying to find ways, that kind of stuff. Like even reading is this, okay, unless it's a story, but reading like the newspaper, right? These are things that require more energy. It requires concentrated effort, and you're always processing new information with this. System 2 gets involved once system 1 determines that something's too complicated. So system 1 is easy. Cognition is your like ability to think, right? So we want to be easy on the cognition. Well, system 2 is strain. So giving a bunch of facts and that's all system 2. It's all new information, but stories are part of system 1. Okay, so when it comes to creating really effective persuasive messages, we want to reduce cognitive strain. We want to reduce what system 2 is doing. Now, it's so funny because I'm making this with bullets and lists today, right? And here are the things that like really feed system 2: lists, bullet points, price comparisons, features, benefits, facts. Okay, facts are about system 2. I always wondered kind of why, if I would put like a study that proves that Protandim works on Facebook, nobody was interested. Yet I write a story about my dog and people are like, right? And it's not about the dog, it's about the story, right? So the value system story gives system 1 the ability to do what is best. Just go with the flow, accept it like it's fact, and just let's not bother system 2, which tends to make people go, oh, I got to work for this, right? So it does kind of depend on what you want. Like right now, your brains are working harder than if I was just telling you a fairy tale, right? It's working harder right now, but you want to be here, ideally, right? That's why you're here. So it's worth it for your system 2 to be working, right? And I love this. System 1 is the love language, right? And the value story is the perfect bridge to get your customers from your facts to feelings, right? And so this comes back to that tagging. I used to always tag my story, horse, dog, maybe somebody else if they know that person, which is another great reason to have your testimonial in Activating You, is because when somebody knows something, it gives you that extra third-party validation. It's not just somebody that they don't know, it's someone they do know, right? And then I would usually tag in the diseases and a few things. I'm stopping tagging all of the nonfiction stuff. So when you're, always remember this, your customer is just a person with a problem, a person who needs you to solve that problem, a person who needs that story, and we talked about this last time, to captivate them, get their attention, and then assure them that your solution is right, and then turn them into a believer. So the program that Tara and I are doing right now to build our blogs is essentially like, her tagline is turn strangers into raving fans. And that's what's going to happen. I have full confidence that this is going to happen, right? And that's essentially returning them into believers. So think about this. If you couldn't talk about your product at all or show it to anybody, what would you say? When you take away the product and make it about the person, everything changes, right? It's pretty cool. So for some people, they're like, what? Why would we not talk about our business or our products and what can they offer? But here's the thing, that's what everybody else is doing, right? They are saying, hey, like reasons XYZ why you should try this. No, 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 right? But what this does is it takes the focus off us and off the product and onto the customer. So what do you have left? You have the people that are using it. And I definitely thought of a few of you today who love to use statistics. And I'm right there, right? Like, I think statistics are really cool. But I don't know if I would have paid attention before I was ready to buy, before I was ready to enroll. I'd be like, yeah, sure, Marty, whatever. Actually, I did say, yeah, sure, Marty for 2 years, but that is okay, right? So we don't need to lose the statistics, but we need to wrap them in the package of a story, right? So we can take our data and our logic and our points, but we need to insert them into a story. And I'm going to teach you how to do all this. So don't panic and go like, how do I do this? It's all laid out. This book is fabulous. The formula is really quite simple. You're going to start with a story, which draws them in, captivates them, and gets the buy-in from system one. Oh, this is familiar. I like this. I like stories. I've been read stories since I was a baby, right? And then you're going to insert the information. You can give the facts, appeal to logic, and as much as you feel is right, like do not overdo this because then your brain will just switch right into system two. What we want to do is ease into system one and then present system two kind of stuff, but without leaving system one. But then we come back to the story and we wrap up the whole thing with the new normal, right? We talked about structure last time and we're going to do it again because it's really important that everybody gets the structure and the 4 components of telling a really effective story. So don't worry, we are definitely going to review that. In other words, okay, now so much of this, when I'm reading it, I'm going, oh, this is exactly what Tara was teaching us with the avatar exercise, okay? So and some of these were exactly the same questions that you need to think about. I have spent a considerable amount of time with this, and now I have my target audience for my blog. And so we need to think of what is their problem, okay? So I think that one of the issues for me for the last couple of years, really until about a year ago, was like, I just thought I wanted everybody. Why should I shut any doors? That is a major mistake. What you need to do is figure out exactly who your target audience is, right? So my target audience is between women with kids between ages 40 and 55. Okay, so now I have a much narrower, and I mean, I have a bunch of other things, like she's been in management, there's a whole bunch of other things going on with her, right? That's not the purpose of this, right? So then once I figured out who that is, I can think, what pain are they experiencing? Then one of the number one pains of my avatar is that she doesn't have enough energy to play with her kids. She's telling them she's too tired. She thinks she waited too long to have kids, right? So that's the pain that she feels, right? It's impacting her life. Obviously, she's not able to play with her kids. What's keeping her up at night, right? There's a whole bunch of things that are keeping her up at night. Again, I don't want to get into it too much here, but I have really thought about this. So take this and answer these questions, and then it's amazing how easy it becomes to tell stories to that person. I am now telling, right? So I recently did something called a lead magnet that Marty and Tara helped me with. And Marty, by the end of it, after I got their feedback, which is really important, and we'll come back to that later, okay? After I got their feedback, Marty was like, I feel like you're talking to me. And I'm like, that's because I am, right? So now now I know I've nailed it, right? So I'm really excited. I'm just doing the hyperlinks right now to get to my Amazon affiliate site. Oh, it's so crazy. Anyways, a totally different thing. Once all this is launched, we will be teaching this to you. So, okay. So we have the normal, all that stuff. And then we have the explosion. In a typical story, this is called the climax, if you remember from like taking English class or whatever, right? So the explosion, but it doesn't have to be something like boom, right? But how does the product solve the pain or the problem? How does it make their life easier? What does the experience of using our products feel like, okay? And how are our products different? All of those things are part of the explosion. And then we have the new normal. What happens afterwards? What is enhanced or improved? How do they feel? And what pain points have vanished? I think in my very first Life Vantage training, it was like, find their pain. And I always thought, like, what does that really mean? Now I know what that really means. It's exactly this, right? So when you're looking for their pain, you're answering these questions. And how can we alleviate that pain? Because everybody has it. Everybody has pain. And we have a solution for a lot of that. So you find your avatar, ask these questions, and then you're going to gear that. You're even going to gear your Facebook post towards this. Okay. So not all the time, because that could be a little exhausting, but that's part of your business, is to solve problems. Actually, that's the main point of our business. Okay. So here's our breakdown. Hey, we're back with identifiable characters. Okay. Now, this is where a lot of value stories run off the rails, right? It is so key because the audience needs someone to connect with and relate to. So it's a distinction. This is the major distinction between a strong story and a weak one. And instead of, one of the biggest mistakes we make in marketing is putting what we offer, the product, right, at the center instead of the person we're offering it to. So we're going to make the person the center, not the product, not even the benefits. Isn't that interesting? Like, so this is a very new concept even for me. So when you go to craft the story, you're going to include a few details about the character. It's as simple as like how old they are, a personality trait, physical characteristic, a profession, whatever. We know to be compliant that we can't talk about diseases and whatnot, and that's okay, right? But it doesn't have to be a ton of stuff. And a few small details, they help build the image of the character in the minds of the audience. Remember last day we talked about stories being co-created. They're not a one-directional thing. So when you provide small amounts of details or more, right, especially specific ones, which we'll get to later, it'll help them. They can imagine it, and then they can connect more with the content, right? Because they're like, oh, they can see themselves. Authentic emotion. We talked about this last week too, right? Honing in on the thing, the one thing that they care the most about, the thing that keeps them up at night, and tell the story that taps into that emotion. Okay, so when I made my lead magnet, it is about getting fit and feeling better. And to be honest, it's about losing weight. And I always kind of strayed away from that because I was like, well, our products aren't really about losing weight, to me anyways. They are about like getting healthier and then improving your life. But guess what my avatar wants? She wants to get fit and lose weight and feel comfortable in her clothes and feel confident. So I went there, right? It's not obvious, right? But it is going to be very obvious, right? But that is what's going to be drawing into people to come and see my blog. So beyond online surveys and poll data, these real conversations are going to reveal the emotional nuances. So like I wrote my lead magnet and I was quite pleased with it, but then I got feedback from Marty and Tara, and I've changed it and it's way better. It's way better. And so I'm so excited. I'm so glad that I did it, and I'm going to be rolling it out. My launch date for my blog is April 15th. Before COVID-19, it was going to be in June, but I spent a lot of time inside and I've just really focused down on it. So I'm really excited about the launch for it. It's going to be, it's going to be crazy. Okay. But when you talk to people, actually talk to them instead of just looking, like we've discussed ways that you can go to Quora and you can find out what questions people are asking and all that kind of stuff. And there's so much value to that. But also just talking to people in your target audience about what do they want? Ask them, right? And you can even say, I'm doing research for my business. I'm honored to have you in my target market. What's keeping you up at night? Ask them, right? It's pretty cool. I think you'll find that people want to talk about this, and it'll actually help like create a connection between the two of you as well, right? And then it'll also help you with the next two pieces, which we're not going to talk about today. But never mind. We are talking about this. The next two are what are coming up next. The moment. Okay. Now, I think that I've actually, in the stories that I've told with my testimonials, I have done this quite well. Finding a specific moment that draws the audience into the scene. It could be like September 2000, or no, New Year's Eve 2000, right? Or just whenever. It doesn't really matter. But when I say New Year's Eve 2000, did you automatically go somewhere? Because I did. I went to the lame party that I threw at my house, right? Where there was like 12 people. And I was like, oh, it was one of the lamest New Year's Eve of my life, right? But just by saying that, I knew exactly, it took me somewhere. And that's what it should do. but it's also going to signify that something is about to change. It's a noticeable shift, and that's what we want. It's usually connected to the explosion, the climax, like I talked about before. So things have been going along as normal, and then suddenly, in this moment, things changed. It's the moment the solution was discovered, and then that's when we find the real value. And I've picked two stories from Activating You. One is mine, and, oh no, and the other one is Tara's, and one is mine, to actually illustrate how this actually does roll out. And then we have specific details, right? So this is where you really want to hone in on who you are marketing to. Your customer knowledge is critical to your sales, it's critical to storytelling, and the value story in particular. Because if you include a bunch of details that are irrelevant to your target market, you're going to miss the mark, right? So when you tell them, don't be, I loved this, because again, this took me right there. Don't be afraid to get specific. When you think about that red stapler in Office Space, I have a red stapler in my office at work, which I forgot to bring home yesterday. And there's one in the main office because everybody loves the red stapler because of the ongoing joke in that movie. And that movie's like 20 years old now, but it still took us back, and I still made an association with it, and it made me laugh when she brought it up. This is not me, this is Kendra Hall. So every detail that you include builds the scene. So we've got our character, right? The character is the people we care about. But now we have the scene that feels familiar, right? You can say like, and they go, oh, they get me. So whenever you get like a meme, like there's so many memes out there that I'm like, that's lame. And then occasionally one comes along, I'm like, hey, I get that. That's the kind of thing that we want. You want the specific details that will make your target audience engage, laugh, recollect, whatever. We want to get them back into that system one, because they get me can only happen in system one. It doesn't happen with facts, right? Oh, studies don't get me, but people do. Now, this is a step that you cannot fake. And that's why I went to Tara's, okay? Because she has a very specific target audience, which is women with autoimmune disorders. And this story is so great because it's true for her. Okay, so I just took a snippet of it, right? May is a significant month for me. Boom, we have a place, right? Not only is it my birthday, but it's also the 2-year anniversary of the last surgery I had for my inflammatory skin condition. Oh, right? I flared into 2011. Okay, we've got dates, specific things. We were out of the country. I'm already empathizing, going like, oh my gosh, this sucks, right? This is the before, the normal, okay? By the time I knew I was in pretty rough shape, okay? So this is all like, this is specific details, constant planning for my flares. I didn't know what a flare was, but someone that she's talking to with an autoimmune disorder, especially hers, is going to go, that's me, I get this, right? I felt trapped inside my body with a disease I could not control. How many people feel that way, especially people that are looking for our products, right? And then we have some more time. My stitches came home. It was 8-month healing time. And then here's still like the specific details about the results, and it came back anyways. I'm trying to think, okay, I don't want to read the whole thing, but she's going, here's a situation, right? Okay, then the moment. I did not pick this because she put my name on it, but this is technically the moment. Christy Otherable introduced me to LifeVantage, and last fall I jumped in because what have I got to lose? Now, if you were doing something like this on your Facebook page or in your Facebook feed, you would not use LifeVantage, right? We're not ever using it in social media, even on your Facebook page. We're going to do a Facebook page overhaul once I have completed mine, right? I have taken off everything LifeVantage off of there, and that seems so crazy. I'll tell you why later, but that is it has more to do with branding you and not the company, okay? So here's what she was hoping for, and here's what she got, okay? And now here we're in the new normal, right? I've introduced all my trigger foods. I started biking again. I've got my life back. I sleep better. I am happier. I look forward to the future. So she's got all of the components, right? Specific. She's got the character, right? She's got a character. We know quite a bit about her. We know the normal. We had the explosion, right? Then we have the new normal, okay? We have the moment. Everything is in here, okay? So And it's not that long, and it doesn't even have to be this long. Okay, so this is even maybe too much for some of you, but that's okay. What I want you to look at is the model. Okay, the model of this. Okay, now the real value, I'm going to be finished. I think I'll finish this up earlier than 40 minutes, which is be a total, it's not something that happens very often. So no matter who you are or what your story is, when you shift your focus to the people you want to serve and relieve the pain they might feel or want to avoid, you don't have to wonder why it's not working anymore, because the value story is for you'll see results if you do this. And no matter how big it or small your business, right? If you want better at this, you start with value stories, which is why she started with it, right? Awesome. Okay, let me take a sip of water. We're going to move on to the founder story. Okay, this one is everybody can do this one, okay? I mean, everybody can do value, but I feel like after you finish with this section, you'll go, I want to start with this, because I think that is one of the easiest to write, and you'll understand and to tell. And I think you'll understand why, because every business has a founder story. Okay. And I'm going to talk about some of you, because I even have ideas about your founder story. And as I was typing this out, I was like, oh, here we go. Right. Every business, no matter what it is, has one of these. And behind one, so it's the story of who and the how it all began. So when you think, I was thinking about superheroes and their origin story. This is essentially what that is. So we have our own origin stories, right, about our businesses. And then we have LifeVantage's story. Now you need to get good at telling LifeVantage's story. And we can do this in a possible later Zoom if you're uncomfortable with it. I've got this one nailed down now to the point where I can tell it in a casual conversation, right? Or if I'm talking about the business with someone, it doesn't sound hypey. I'm just telling the story, right? And because it's kind of like we're an accidental network marketing company, right? And a lot of people will find that attractive about our company. It's like, well, it didn't start off this way. It started off as a bunch of scientists in a lab trying to do something cool, right? That's not how I word it, but you know what I mean. So we need to practice the company story as well as our own. Now, this is one of the best ways to stand out and bridge the gap between you and potential customers, right? Is your story, because so you're the character, right? So it's you're the identifiable character. And when it comes to a new product or idea, and we have new products all the time, you're selling yourself as much as anything else. Now, I said this before, your Facebook page needs an overhaul where you take it off product, off LifeVantage. And I just recently deleted 20 Facebook pages that I made because they all had LifeVantage in the title. So my original Facebook page was lifevantage.christyableTohelp when I made it like 2 years ago or whatever, maybe even 2.5. And LifeVantage flagged it and said, you can't have LifeVantage in your title. And I went, okay. And then, but I also had all these other international pages. LifeVantage, Christy Able to Help Australia, or LifeVantage Australia, New Zealand, like all that kind of stuff, right? And so compliance had a problem with one of my LifeVantage Australia, Christy Able to Help posts. And so I was chatting with them, and I was like, you know what? After this recent training that I've done, I'm just going to delete all of those pages, right? Because first of all, I really only need one. I used to think that I would attract people from other markets by having like Australia. And I did. I attracted one person, right? But it's not worth all the effort. What I want is more traffic on just Christy Able to Help. And as soon as so a year ago, when I was forced to recreate my page and just make Christy Able to Help, within a week or two, I had more likes from people that I knew than I did in the last year with my LifeVantage page. So it's very, very important that you are branding yourself and not anything else. Okay. So again, I think this will be a different Zoom in a couple, like once mine is all done and overhauled. And then the blog, right? My blog has nothing to do with LifeVantage. My blog is about me, right? And what I can offer the customer. And I've been making pages after pages after pages, and it's really empowering actually. But like I now have a page called Success Stories. Oh, I'm totally going to use all 40 minutes. So we have 10 minutes left. And so the drop down menu, and it goes success stories, and then I have product, and then I have business, and then under product it's like health and personal care, and then it's anyways, It is, and there's going to be all the stuff will be in there, but it's not going to be overtly on, well, it will be overtly on the blog, but you'll see what I mean when it gets published. Okay, why is that not working now? Okay, so done right, the founder story, I love this. It taps into the desires that stir at the core of every human, okay? No matter where you are in your quest for entrepreneurial success, right? Whether you have been in this, whether you are pro 10 or you are just starting out, it should read like a fairy tale, okay? It should read like a fairy tale. And I'm going to show you what I did. Like my story that's in activating vitality and abundance and vitality is, it starts off with once upon a time, right? And I wrote that story the day after hearing Kendra Hall. So I was like, okay, but we should always tell it, and we should never stop. It can feel like I'm so sure that when Daisy, she tells her a very shortened version of her founder story at the beginning of every Zoom that she does on Friday mornings, right? She should never stop telling that story. People are fascinated with how things got started. Okay, so Jessica, part of your founding story is that your job sucked that you had, and your husband did not want, that he wanted to be able to travel with you, so that you needed something that was flexible, right? Lori, you needed something to help you stay home with your kids, right? And Amber was tired of working at Starbucks, and she's like, I want to do something and create something else. So think about the power of your founding story and why you started this, right? And it's not how big it is, right? But the decision to tell it is the most important thing here. Okay, so we need to, oh, I love this. Okay, so I hadn't even thought about this, but it's so true. We want teammates. Network marketing, but all business needs teammates, right? It's very, very rare. You can't own a big company without having a bunch of people working with you, right? So what we need is a story that inspires other people to join us, right? To become part of our team. So Marty's story attracted me, and my story attracted you, right? So it's really, really important, right? So we must bring others on. And it's not just any others. We want people who really want to be here and who can be the best, right? So in order that, we want people who share the dream, who are invested in the outcome, and who cared and who want to be on this like wild ride with us, because it sure is, right? It is a wild ride, and it is about to get, I don't even know. It's about to blow up, right? Like in a good way. We're about to have an explosion in the market, and it's very exciting. Okay, so where do we look for our founding story, right? To go way back, right? So sometimes people will go back to their childhood. What did you like doing? Did you always like helping others? Were you always interested in healthcare? Were you always entrepreneurial? I'll be honest, I was always entrepreneurial, maybe not in the best way. Like I traded nickels for dimes for my brother, which is not exactly honest, but I had lemonade stands. And when I was in high school, I wanted to be in business. Like I went to UBC to do commerce. It just didn't work out, right? But it's working out now, right? There's another good one. Remember, there had to be a better way moment, okay? Oh, I'm missing quotations on the other side. Oh, forgive me. Anyways, oh, and there's a colon that shouldn't be there. Anyways, English lit major. Okay, so this is the moment when you realize that the way things have always been might not be the best way. So the day that you decided to join, right? What were you feeling? Who was there? How did the events unfold? Include the wonder, the disbelief, include the parts that seemed crazy or endearing or funny, right? Like, this is not a place where you're like, oh, everything is rosebud, rainbows and unicorns. No. Now, number 3 is mine, okay? Look for the blood, sweat, and tears. So this is what I use for my founder story, right? You don't immediately run to the sunny side of the street. Oh, everything's always been so great. People don't care that things have always been so great, right? What they're looking for, you're better off going a little dark here, right? Remember when everything was going wrong, when things got ugly. This is your story, right? The bloody, sweaty, cried out, but then it's going to lead to an eventual victory. This is that movie where the protagonist struggles and then is the victor in the end, right? All of these are stories. So like Daisy's story, like talk about, and then my story in vitality and abundance. Okay, I really cut it down because I only wanted to show, it's really long, first of all, right? So, but look at this. Once upon a time, there was a woman with a pretty good life. She had a loving partner, 2 beautiful boys, a dog, a cat, a mortgage, fulfilling relationships, family, friends, blah, 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 blah. And then something changed, right? And then it was scary. I really wanted to focus here on the fact that I say, I failed, I failed, I failed, right? So I was excited. Here's the moment things changed for the first time. I couldn't sleep. I literally couldn't sleep the night that I joined LifeVantage. And I hadn't even tried the products yet. But I was just like, holy cow, like I could really, I see myself with unlimited potential here, right? So I got started. I felt superior. And then some people were rude about it. This went on for a year until I realized I didn't have all the answers, but I could. Oh, I forgot about it. Okay, anyways, I didn't do the whole thing. But basically in the next one, I say, I failed and I failed and I failed. But then I got better, okay? And now I've gotten a lot better, right? So we have 4 components to the story. You, the founder, okay? You have to put yourself at the front and center of your story because that way people can believe in you, get to know you, and root for you. So we need to include the negative emotions that you've experienced: frustration, betrayal, doubt. Can I do this? Can I move past these obstacles? Because people need to know that you've felt those things and that you've worked through them. We always want to balance that out with the positive emotions that grew from them, right? Determination, pride, relief, whatever it is for you. And the contrast between those two is what makes the founder story great. People care about your connections to the product and your commitment to creating a better life for them. And new teammates care most about your passion for your work. If you're kind of like meh about it, they're not going to be excited. But if you're excited, right? And it needs to include love and passion. I love my work. I love the products. I love who I work with. I love that we get to travel together. I love that we have so much fun, right? All of these things are really, really great. And then we have the moment, right? Many people will neglect the specific point in time, right? But again, in my story, there is some very specific moments in time, but you can just start with, I'll never forget the day, or I remember when. People are automatically they zone in. Like one of my Facebook posts in the next little while is going to be like, I remember the exact moment I became a bird lady, right? And I know exactly when it happened. A hummingbird, I won't get into it, but it was, so I'm good, but I'm going to tell that story. I'm going to practice, right? So you can practice not about the business, but just practice telling stories in Facebook, right? And on Instagram or wherever you're sharing, practice telling stories according to this, and then you'll get better at it for business. Now, remember, with details, we want to rely specifically on what is universal to your audience, right? Your avatar. But this is, when people tap into this, like people love these kind of like, I overcame it, I did it, and I'm doing it, right? And even if you're not successful yet, it doesn't matter because you're still on the path. So this story is about a person on a path, and whether it's a path we make, the path we choose, or the path that happens to be there at the time, path navigating is what being human is all about. I love this. I think that this is bang on. We've got less than a minute. And that's the end. Okay. So I will escape from here and come back to the Zoom. Where'd it go? Oh, stop the share. Hey, we didn't get bombed. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording and